Welcome, Marco. For our viewers, would you tell us who you are and give us a little bit of background about yourself prior to getting into full-time business coaching?
Yeah, so my name is Marco Soares. I'm from Southeast England in a little town called Haywards Heath, and before becoming a coach, I used to be a media sales manager. So I used to work across some really cool publications, Q, Mojo, and Kerrang. These are some of like the leading lifestyle magazines in the UK, and I used to run ad teams. And my job was really to make sure that those advertising teams achieved targets, grew market share, and sold to advertising agencies, concert promoters, and record labels. So it was a pretty cool job.
Yeah. Now, did you do any selling, or was it mostly managing the sales force?
Yeah, so at first I started off in the sales function, and primarily sold to record labels and advertising agencies myself. And then as I started kind of developing in the role, I started taking more and more responsibility for managing the teams. And then eventually, when I was brand director, my sole job was just to manage the advertising teams, and more importantly, to coach those teams to be able to achieve targets and to do what they needed to do to achieve the budgets and goals for the business.
That seems like a very good background for what you have to do in business coaching. What prompted you to get into business coaching, and how long ago did you get into the business coaching?
Well, I've been a coach now for 6 years, and it's interesting. The way I got into it was I'd been talking about having my own business for ages. I always wanted to do something for myself. I always felt that I've always loved business. I've always loved working with people, always wanted to do something. And for a really long time, I'd kind of not really found my passion. I'd never really found the right opportunity. And my wife eventually said to me, look, if you're not going to find something, then just please stop talking about it, because I just can't hear you talking about your own business. And that's the thing that prompted me. So off the back of that, I started looking at loads of different opportunities, and then eventually I found Action Coach. And when I started looking into it, it just seemed to tick all of the boxes. It was all about business, all about helping people, all about developing yourself. When you become a business coach, it's like a journey of never-ending education and personal development, and I really kind of bought into that, and I saw it as possibly the most challenging thing that I'd ever have to do, and I just kind of fell in love with it and decided I needed to do it.
So that was 6 years ago.
6 years ago, yeah.
And why Action Coach? I mean, what is it about Action Coach that drew you to it?
Well, I think coming from, I'd coached my sales teams. I'd coached people before without great skill or tools, just kind of pretty much intuitively. And when I found Action Coach, I discovered that they have like really good tools, really useful tools to help move businesses forward. They had my skill set at the time was very much kind of sales and marketing focused and team development focused. I didn't have the tools and the techniques to help small business owners progress, because I came from a big kind of corporate culture where resources were, pretty much there for you. And what I liked about Action Coach was that it kind of just gave me the right tools to be able to do my job effectively and to coach from the very start. So fantastic tools. The other thing is we really have a fantastic community. So when we go to different events and conferences, you get to hang out with the coolest coaches in the world, the coaches that make the biggest differences, the coaches that have been doing it for ages and have achieved things that nobody ever thought possible. So the community aspect is really, really important for me. And also it's great to be just part of an organization that kind of share best practice. So we're constantly updating the way that we work and sharing the things that work. And I think that probably makes Action Coach better than anything else out there, because there isn't anybody else that can compete with those tools and that kind of culture. There's very much a culture of, being the best, learning how to kind of get the best strategies in place, and constantly kind of moving things forward.
Okay, so the two things that I hear you saying most frequently here would be the tools that Action Coach provides and basically the networking, the sharing of ideas with other successful action coaches. Let's focus on the tools. Tell me the 2 or 3 best tools. Now, I know there's many, many, many more, but in your mind, for you, what are the 2 or 3 best tools that have helped you through Action Coach?
Through Action Coach. So I think definitely taking a company's goals and aspirations and trying to put that into some sort of sensible framework. So we do a series of annual plans and then kind of break that down into quarterly plans. And I think that that's massive. A lot of business owners, when I first meet them, they know they want more. They know that they want bigger and better, but they're not always that good at visualizing what that actually looks like and putting it down and breaking it up and turning it into something that's tangible. And because they can't do that, they find it really difficult to get their teams behind them and to get their teams to deliver on their vision. So one of the core tools that we use within Action Coach is a series of annual and quarterly planning frameworks. And that's been massive. That's been so powerful, helping somebody kind of have that aha moment of, wow, so that's what I'm trying to do over the next 5 years. I think that that's so important. I think also getting in place proper people processes. So the basics, like having a fit for purpose organizational structure and having proper roles that articulate what's required of each person. So that's really, really important. And then I'm big into sales and marketing. So we've got some really important tools like the 5 ways, which is a model of breaking down profitability and being able to incrementally affect all of the different parts of your business that could have a massive impact on the bottom line. Those are the key things that I've worked on clients with.
Okay. Now let's get to the networking part. You've been with Action Coach 6 years. You've been to several of their meetings. What would you say, in rubbing shoulders with the best of the best, what would you say are the key traits that make a great business coach?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think there's a couple of things. So I think, first of all, the greatest coaches out there really have a sense of focus that you just pick up. They know where they want to be. They have strong goals. They have meaningful goals, and they're making steady progress towards those goals. So focus is definitely. I think there's also, again, going back to this culture of continuous professional development. The best coaches realize that in order to be the best coaches, you've got to put the time into education, into learning, and to constantly challenging the way that you think about business and different aspects of kind of working with people, really. And I think outside of those two, I would say that the greatest coaches also want to give back. The greatest coaches also want to help other people. I think they get a really they get a big kick out of working with people and helping people progress. And they're always willing to share their top ideas and strategies, always.
Excellent. Now, you come from the advertising world. Do you kind of focus on getting those types of clients, whether it's advertising or you mentioned advertising agencies and the entertainment business? What kind of clients do you like best?
Yeah, I think at first I tried to focus on very much service businesses, but over the last few years, I guess I've been kind of shopping for more of a mindset than a particular niche. So I tend to look for businesses that they want to double growth within a 3 to 5 year period, really ambitious, would like to structure their team, would like to have a proper strategy in place that actually works, and would like to tie that up with a good financial plan. So those are the businesses that I try to actively find. I work with 20 odd businesses across a variety of different sectors. I think that that's a really important strength as a coach. I think that one of the things that might differentiate me from other coaches is that having a really wide, diverse client base helps you kind of take best practice from all of these different industries and all of these different sized businesses, and kind of
Absolutely.
show other people what's possible. And also you don't get kind of caught up into the head trash of what's possible and not possible in a particular niche.
Right.
That's really big. So I don't have a specific sector that I focus on. If I'm honest, I work with a lot of family businesses out there, and and long may it continue. I like the variety and the diversification within the portfolio.
Right. And that is good, working with diverse businesses and taking
Yeah,
what works in one and bring it into another. I found that most often in my career,
yeah,
as a professional speaker, that some of the great innovations don't happen within an industry by looking at your competitors within the industry. It's actually looking at businesses that are outside of your industry and bringing those ideas in. Really creative
yeah,
thinking. Now, you mentioned that from a prospecting and marketing point of view, you want to go after businesses or prospects that have a particular mindset, maybe doubling their
yeah,
business in a 5-year period. One of the rules of marketing is that when you're looking for a niche market, it needs to be identifiable. So how do how
yeah.
do you identify that kind of a niche market? It's I don't know of any lists that are out there of these are the companies that want to double their business
Mhm.
in the next 5 years. So how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, you're right. And I've looked for those lists and they are non-existent. So,
Right.
so what I tend to do is I tend to do a lot of workshops, and I suppose through the languaging that I use and through my websites and the blogs that I put out, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kind of talk to stuff that would be relevant for ambitious business owners that want to get amazing results. And basically through my propaganda, I guess, I'm hoping that people that identify with my coaching philosophy and what I'm trying to do will come and speak to me. Um, I have in the past tried to put marketing campaigns together to go after very specific identifiable niches, as you've just said, and that's been successful. But putting on a workshop, getting businesses into a room, and this is what is possible if you get focused and you use the right tools. That often gets the right people to come and see me afterwards.
I like this idea of you doing these programs. They're
Mm.
typically what, in the evenings
Well, actually, no, they're during the day.
during
Yeah,
the
so
day.
kind of
Interesting.
half day out on a Friday, and it's the kind of thing that I do with some banks, so business banks, accountants, and solicitors, and I'll work with them to take their clients, give them a treat for half a day, give them some really good advice, look after them, give them some hospitality, and I'll give them some great advice on what they can do to move their businesses forward. And if it clicks with them, they'll come and speak to me. And if it doesn't, that's okay.
Right. Now, this is a half-day program you're talking about, right?
Yeah, half day.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
going after accountants and business advisors, financial advisors, they're called centers of influence. Any given CPA, for instance, or accountant
Mm,
may
yeah.
have dozens of clients and know which of those clients are doubling their business every 5 years. So that's pretty good idea. Working
Yeah.
through those centers of influence, getting their clients who have the mindset that you're looking for, and
Mm,
inviting them into your half-day programs. How many
yeah.
people do you normally have in a session?
Yeah, we try and keep it really intimate, so probably about 15 to 20 businesses. And then we also have whoever that accountant or, kind of business relationship manager, whoever brought that person into the room, we have them on the tables. And I run those sessions in a really open, collaborative kind of format. So we talk about best practice, we talk about things that matter. I give them some ideas and I get them to talk about it so that they understand what it means for them. But yeah, you're right. Working with accountants that understand who the ambitious businesses are within their portfolios, it's a killer strategy and it works really, really well.
Absolutely. So um, tell me, when you get a new client, what are the strategies that you do initially with them to kind of get them
Mm.
started?
My approach is very much about trying to understand where that business owner is at. So I try not to walk into any relationship with a clear strategy of what we're going to do over a 12-month period, because I want to understand where they are at, what's working, what isn't working. So the very first thing we do is I get them to kind of do like a SWOT analysis, to define some business goals initially, to kind of look at their business and try and work out what areas need development in terms of best practice. What are they doing? What aren't they doing?
Yeah.
And from there, we'll kind of have, jump in.
Yeah, I wanted to just, for our listeners, define SWOT analysis.
Right. So a SWOT analysis is a framework that you can use to identify strengths and weaknesses in your business, those things that you can control and are pretty much internal, and then the other side is your opportunities and threats. So to identify those things that might be an opportunity, you might maximizing as threats, which could pose a risk to your business. And a SWOT analysis used in the right context is a really intelligent way of taking a step back and assessing your business. Tony, I don't know if you relate to this, but a lot of business owners out there, they know things about their business, but they struggle to kind of pull that information out and put it into a context that they can actually analyze and share with their teams. Do you get that?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think that having these conversations where you're pulling this information out of the heads of the we might say C-suite, the owners, the CEO, COO, et cetera, and sharing it with the key management staff, I think is very valuable, because sometimes it's a big aha that the rest of the team realizes this is what is in the mind of the owner of the business, and maybe we should all get on board.
Yeah, and even more powerfully sometimes is that if you can engage your team members, the people on the front line, in helping you put together a SWOT, they've got gold. They know what's going on and what's not working, and sometimes that just doesn't get filtered to the top because there isn't a framework or a structure in place to enable that communication flow. So SWOT analysis is really, really powerful, especially if it's understood properly. I think sometimes it can be done lazily and you don't get the value out of it. But if you kind of give it your all and you really dig deep and enable a client to understand the power of it, especially if they can become quite internally focusing and quite kind of self-critical, they can find some really, really good stuff. So we use that, and then through a process of discussing the SWOT analysis, digging deeper, digging into their business goals and making sure that their business goals are goals that actually matter to them. I've met so many business owners that want to triple turnover, and you ask them why, and eventually when you dig deep enough, what they really, really want is not what they say. It's not, you can't take those goals at face value. You really need to dig deeper. So to onboard a client correctly, to really help them get started, it's about getting that pre-thinking done. This is, for a lot of people, the first time they've ever thought about this stuff in any depth. So it's about helping them understand what it is that they want to do, where they, and then in a planning session with them, we'll basically create a 12-month coaching plan. And that coaching plan will be focused on the things that need to happen, the things that need to improve to help them start chipping away at their long-term goals. And there will be some things that I'm looking for. There will be certainly kind of making sure we're ticking all of the boxes in terms of the foundation stuff. So making sure that they're making best use of their time, making sure the team's structured correctly. We use your tool, we use DISC to make sure we've got the right people doing the right thing and getting people to play to their strengths. We make sure that the sales and marketing kind of frameworks are there and processes are working correctly. So there'll be some best practice, but then from beyond the foundations, it is really so specific to that business.
Excellent. And again, for our listeners, let me just define, you mentioned that you use our DISC assessment. DISC is a behavioral model that measures somebody's dominant, either behavioral style or communication style. D stands for dominance, I stands for influence, S stands for steadiness, and C stands for conscientiousness. And everybody has sort of a combination of all four in different degrees, but the vast majority of us have a dominant D, I, S, or C, and then maybe a secondary that comes into play, especially when we have to adapt. Let me end with one question. What do you see is as the biggest reason a client may disconnect from a coach? Now, not just your experience, but again, you rub shoulders with the brightest and the best coaches. What do you hear is maybe the number one or two reasons that people disconnect from a long-term relationship from a coach?
I think one of the common reasons might be that their client has achieved the goals that they set out at the start of the relationship. So one thing that I'm always really conscious of is making sure that my clients have meaningful goals and that we always stretch those goals.
Right.
So I think that that's critical. The other thing is, I think that we're in the business of development, and we're in the business of knowing as much information as possible, being business generalists, and staying ahead of the curve. And I think that it's possible for some clients to outgrow coaches if coaches don't continuously learn new things and challenge the way that they think about everything. Yeah. So it's certainly something that I've been very, very conscious of, making sure that I dedicate consistently 2 to 3 hours every single week learning, going on a course, jumping on a webinar, doing something to make sure that I continue to be valuable and relevant in my marketplace. So I would say it's probably those two things: clients outgrowing or clients not having goals.
Right.
That are enough to want to coach.
Yeah. So let me summarize. I'm a big advocate of people being in a constant learning posture, constantly upgrading. Yeah. My mother, as I was growing up, constantly drilled into me to always go the extra inch, not mile. And she said, every day, try to improve yourself in every aspect of your life, socially, financially, spiritually, mentally. So, I've always been in this constant self-improvement, but not everybody is there. So I think that's a very, very significant point that you bring up about, the possibility of a coach not growing enough, the client growing and outgrows the coach. The second thing you mentioned, which is the goals, where they achieve their goals and they feel they don't need the coach anymore. I like what you do, and that is you're constantly sort of moving the goal line. You're moving it out. So, they're constantly going after it. They're constantly approaching it, but you're constantly getting them to move the goal and get better and better. So they never really quite get it. They come close because you're always asking them to stretch. So
stretch their comfort zone, right?
Exactly.
It's really important in life, to keep moving, to keep progressing. And I love clients that really get that, business owners that just continually want to push it. And then sometimes, you have clients that you need to try and manage that we're not pushing it too far too quickly.
Exactly.
So good.
Okay, well, Marco, thank you so much. I really, really think our listeners will get an enormous amount of good information from this interview. So I thank you very much. Hope to see you at an upcoming Action Coach meeting. Not sure when that will be, but if I'm there, make sure you come up to me and say hi, okay?
Yeah, great. Yeah, really good to speak to you. Thank you very much, Tony. You take care.
You too.